I know that there is still that tiny bit of hope for people that the Red Sox could make a run this year, but as it starts to dwindle down in terms of their chances, it is important for us to start thinking about the 2025 season and what that's really going to look like for Boston, because there's a lot of young talent on this team, as I've highlighted in previous episodes of this show. Lots of guys who have really developed a lot within the Red Sox system and have come up to the majors and are really contributing this year and showing their potential for the longer term and what they can bring and provide to this team, which is a team that's so focused on trying to get things right and build for the future and prioritize the players who are going to be big assets to that. So we've seen lots of players really come out of their shell this year, and one big area that the Red Sox are going to have to address going into 2025 is going to be their outfield. There's a lot of talent in that outfield right now. Lots of guys who have really stepped up to the plate and have been able to contribute in the best way they possibly can. And there have been rumblings about whether Tyler O'Neill is going to be coming back. I talked about him a little bit on the show the other day and how I feel like it makes sense to move on from him. Yes, he has the power. Yes, he crushes home runs. A lot of times they are solo home runs, though. And he had that big walk-off home run the other night against the Orioles with runners on base, which was a miracle. But generally, he doesn't drive in as many runners effectively when they're on base, and he hits the solo shots a lot, and he also strikes out a lot. So if the Red Sox are trying to limit the swings and misses in their lineup, it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to keep him around because they had tons of strikeouts as a team this year. And if they can start to dwindle down the guys who are swing and miss hitters, that will put them in a lot better of a position. So Tyler O'Neill is one guy who I feel like I could see them letting walk in free agency and not bringing him back and re-signing him because he will be a free agent at the end of this year. But Jarren Duran is somebody who is unmovable. And I've seen some rumors and speculation lately about the Red Sox trading him for pitching this offseason. And even Maz on Felger and Maz was like in August, the Red Sox should move on from Jarren Duran this offseason because they have a lot of outfield talent, which, yes, he's not wrong about the outfield talent. They do have a lot of that. But moving on from Jarren Duran would be one of the dumbest moves this organization has ever made in history. Dumbest. And I'm not kidding, because what Jarren Duran provides, you don't get from every player, especially not every outfielder. What Jarren Duran brings to this Red Sox team is something that you don't see the average player bring to the table, between his speed, his versatility offensively and defensively, the fact that he can make an impact every single night in some capacity. How do you get rid of that? I mean, you look at a guy like Wilyer Abreu, who is having a good season at the plate and has been showing a ton of potential. He has put up some numbers that should be putting him in the Rookie of the Year conversation, but they unfortunately are not. And he's somebody who has certainly provided a lot of value, but you can't possibly sit here and compare him to Duran and say that he provides more value than Duran does for this Red Sox team. I mean, the way that Jarren Duran is able to play virtually every single night and contribute every single night is a force to be reckoned with. He is one of the scariest players in the league just because of how many tools he has in his box that he can pull out and contribute in a certain game. And even when it comes to his splits, home and away, I mean, he's consistent, and that's the biggest thing. His batting average at home right now is a 289, and on the road is a 287. Like, they're very close. And with a lot of hitters, you see a huge discrepancy in home versus away, or first half versus second half, but he has remained pretty consistent. In the first half of the season, he batted 284. Second half, he's doing even better with a 296 average. So he hasn't slipped back in the second half like we've seen from some hitters like Connor Wong, for example. He's actually increased his capability in the second half. On base percentage went from a 342 in the first half to a 350 in the second half, and slugging went from a 483 in the first half to a 557 in the second half. Now, keep in mind, this is the guy who won All-Star Game MVP after the first half of the season, when he was already playing really well. Now, in the second half, he's playing even better, and a lot of times you could see hitters start to decline in the second half. It further emphasizes the consistency that Jarren Duran shows on a regular basis and his ability to constantly find ways to get on base, because even infield singles, I mean, not every hitter is fast enough to beat those out the majority of the time. But if Duran makes contact and it's on the ground, you know that more often than not, he's going to reach base. And why would you want to get rid of that? Why would you want to lose that skill on your roster when you don't have a lot of guys across the league who can provide the same level of speed that he can? And with the issues that the Red Sox have had in 2024 between the pitching and their defense, why would you want to take away the most consistent asset of their offense that has existed all season long? Because as far as I'm concerned, you can look at the Red Sox lineup and you can say, yes, they can hit. And yes, they have a lot of guys who can mash and have good plate discipline and can work pitch counts. All of that is fantastic. But who has consistently done that more than anybody else on this team? Jarren Duran is the first answer that pops into my head, and quite frankly, the only answer to that question. He's been hitting out of the leadoff spot. He's played in nearly every game this season. He stays healthy. He's not an injury-prone player like some other players on this team, such as Tyler O'Neill, Trevor Story, guys who have trouble staying on the field. Although I will say Tyler O'Neill has played more games this year than he has in a while. But in general, throughout his career, he has had trouble staying on the field. So if you compare him to Jarren Duran, I mean, Jarren Duran is one of the healthiest players in the league, and he takes good care of himself and he stays healthy. And wouldn't you want that in the lineup? If the Red Sox were to trade Jarren Duran, yes, they'd get a fantastic return because of his value, but they would be losing that offensive spark that he provides a lot of the time. Because when the offense was seriously slumping about a week/week and a half ago and they weren't hitting, guess who the only person was in the Red Sox lineup that was continuously hitting despite that? Yep, Jarren Duran. He was the guy in the Red Sox lineup that was consistently making things happen offensively, still hitting, still getting on base, and still providing some offense for a team that wasn't providing any offense. So wouldn't you want to keep that on the team? I completely disagree. I don't think there should be any thought about trading Jarren Duran this offseason. That would be such a dumb move by the Boston Red Sox organization, to the point where I would be seriously questioning if they know what they're doing and seriously questioning their baseball credibility, because that is the furthest thing that makes sense. And do I think that we might see an outfielder traded this offseason? Absolutely. Do I think I could see it being anybody else? Yes. Should it be Duran? Absolutely not. That would be where I put my foot down. Rafaela obviously got extended. The Red Sox like his versatility. If you're going to trade an outfielder, move on from Wilyer Abreu. Yes, he's a good player, so he can still get you a good return, especially from a pitching standpoint, but you're not losing nearly as much versatility as you would be losing with Jarren Duran.